Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into the newspaper review. But before we do that, as always, it's brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And here's what they're offering you. If you're a man, especially if you've hit 40 and above, what is the state of your prostate? Do you know? If you're a woman and you've never checked out your fertility, your status in that context to know what is happening, well, this should be good news for you because they're offering you screening in both areas gratis for free. Right? All you need to do, head to any of the branches of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and I'll walk you through a list of them. If you're here in Accra, head to Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. That's where you will find them. If you are in Kumasi in the Ashanti region, Kronomabwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex, then there's Takrade and Naji Estates, there's Tema Community 22, there's Techiman Hanswa, and there's Siama Inzama. Their call lines are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the newspaper review, we're going all the way till the, 7:20 thereabouts before we cede to sports. But joining me for a discussion this morning, he's sending a lot of messages. I don't know whether he's having a text message interaction with Jesus. Former NUC's president, Dennis Larbi-Ampofo, is my guest. He also is a member of the MPP's Election 2024 Manifesto Committee. Good morning.
Good morning, bro.
Thanks for joining.
It's been a while.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Right. And I want to suppose you are in black, for the same reason I am in black and shades of red or pink on the back of the demise of Dr. John Kumar. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Anope yawo Ghana month mu inti no me hyehyɛ so no show no me de hyɛ ase no bibu baby na ebere ne se owa atwede ba komfro inti no obi wum anase obi free mu ense se ye obi enije obi enwu nipa ne papa o bone o ye nyina ye okwan bi ko ye wakwantu otu inti no that's the little bit. But what would be your fond memories of Dr. John Kumar? Did you know him personally?
So I was telling a call right before I go on. He was at the office on Monday.
When you say office, what do you mean? His office?
Campaign office on Monday. He came by. I had a briefing I was supposed to give him. But he was busy and I was also busy, so I deferred it to next week. I said to myself that, Chief, I'll talk to you next week. I'll explain it to you next week. I don't know if the next week is going to come. I don't know if he's going to. Yesterday, when I heard it, I was one of the people who had proposed in my head that I'm not going to believe it. But up around...
It was too shocking for you?
Yeah, up around 2 p.m., the indications were that Senior Kumar was gone. I don't know if I can recount my personal memories of him because there are still a lot of things that we are working on or a lot of engagement I have with him that I am going to struggle to describe how it's going to pan out. So just like a lot of young people from his constituency, from our party, from the country at large, Senior Kumar was a national person. He's not just a party person. He's someone who endeared to both people of the eye. Yesterday, almost every parliamentarian I met had a personal thing working out with Senior Kumar. So at this point, it's unfortunate. I'm struggling to find my words, especially on Senior Kumar at this point. Yeah, but Senior, rest easy, Senior.
And I had a few interactions with him. He was always someone that you would push to the wall, all right, and I do that a lot. But he would, and I see you are getting pretty emotional. Well. But he would still, find a nice way of... There are some people you speak to and they are unnecessarily aggressive, mindlessly aggressive over nothing, even when they don't have a point. Dr. John Kumar wasn't that type, but he would still make his point.
He's a calm person.
And it's really sad that this has happened. I interacted with someone yesterday who told me that there were people in Ejiso, his constituency, weeping, literally. In the last primary, he literally swept the floor with his contenders, which tells you about how popular he was among the MPP members. But there are people too that he was helping in education. Someone tells me he was paying the school fees of some of these people, at least about 5 people she knew, and that now these people were in tears because that's
the most painful part. People who work directly for him. You know, he's an entrepreneur. People who work directly for him, people who depended on him so much, and that's where it hurts so much. For some of us who are working on projects and stuff with him, I mean, if we could just fold our project document and then keep quiet. But more painful is the people who depended on him for their livelihood. I know a couple of people who went to him every year for their school fees. So now I'm asking myself, when the Beshomo, who's going to take care of them? But as the accounts will say, who cry adia into minji. So we leave that to God.
Yeah,
the more we talk about it, the more it gets more painful.
I know. It really took me, I was driving through town when we broke the news. I heard it and I parked. Because in this whole thing that we do, as the fourth estate, we try to hold to account the 3 arms of government and all of that. So you definitely get to deal with these people from time to time. And then it just struck me, it was like some sort deja vu. Interactions with him and everything, and you ask yourself, wow.
As I'm saying, just Monday, bro. Monday, he was at the office.
That's how it is.
Monday, he came for a meeting in the office. I went to the car, greeted him and told him that, sir, next week, I'll brief you. Because a lot of people have swarmed him as usual. So I just greeted and told him, I said, next week, I'll brief you.
But we've also heard of health struggles that he'd had. What do you know?
I, as much as I can, try to refrain from...
don't not specifics, but was he ill from what we gather?
I mean, I had heard some, like every other person had heard, but I can't confirm because he had never mentioned any of such to myself. But I mean, right after or prior, we had heard a lot of the fact that he wasn't looking very well and he wasn't very well. And afterwards, we've heard so much in the media. I had hoped that with all the guesses and wild guesses that's going on around us, if it is possible for many of us to refrain from taking some of these wild guesses, at least for the sake of friends and family, we try as much as we can. Like you mentioned, where we come from, when people die, we try as much as we can to give them a good memory, help the families assuage their pain and friends and families around these times. So as much as I would hope that the guesses and the wild thoughts out there in the media can be held on to, at least for the sake. You can imagine what Apostle Lillian is going through at this point in time. I saw the video of the moms weeping yesterday and it was devastating. It broke me to the core. Everybody's there. I mean, people cry and all of that, but you could see a mother in pain on the floor crying.
That thing is not... My mom, in reacting to, of course, my father passed when I was only 6, but our eldest brother, 3 boys, was only 34 when he passed. And I know what it's like for a mother to have a son die and to have to look at him and say bye-bye. I think it's one of the things no parent, and no matter how much of an enemy you may consider anybody, you wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No, especially for someone like Kumar.
I think I have a fair idea of what it would mean to his...
Look at the prospects. I mean, at 45, he was a lawyer.
This was even someone that some had said could become running mate to Dr. Bawumia.
He has so much prospect. Dr. Bawumia himself became running mate at age 44. So it is not wrong for anybody to want to predict that John Kumar too can become running mate. He's a lawyer in good standing. He's an economist. He's so sharp academically. He was overall best student during his MBA. He's a doctor. This is someone who has so much prospect. He's affable. I mean, for those of us who had our senior high school in Ashanti region, he's the first regional president for Ashanti Regional Student Representative Council. I share a common APEC route with him, an association of past executives and coordinators, where every time we had functions, programs, he would go into his pocket, give us donations to support the association's activities. Everyone who grew up in Ashanti region, especially after the 2000s, would say that he was a beacon to look up to. He's the first regional president of the ARSRC. So for young people who looked up to him, and at 45, the things he had done for himself.
Nyame the currency, Nyame the currency, no mano, asumge, Nyame the currency. May God grant him peace in his own bosom. Dr. John Kumar, rest in peace. I couldn't have started in any other way. I'm sorry I've not got into the papers yet, but I mean, on a day like this, you would give some leeway to celebrate the man. And in a way, it also reminds me of another person I really, really, really respected, and I talk about him every now and then. How come his name just escapes me? He's a former finance minister, Kyei-Mensah.
Yeah.
He has served in different ministries.
That's
Kyei-Mensah. I mean, I don't know, but God be with him. Right before we get into the papers, though, I just want to confirm. Nowadays, you hear of, oh, this person is a part of Dr. Bawumia's this committee or that committee. Then the person comes out to say, me, I've not got any message. I've not got any letter. I've not been appointed to anything. The latest of which is Kwame Pienim, economist, one of the elders of the NPP. Just to confirm, are you a member of the NPP's manifesto committee? Just give me a straight answer.
Yes, please. I serve on the education subcommittee.
Education. Okay, so you were approached and you said yes.
I'd gladly say yes anytime.
I mean, you were approached
yes,
and you
please.
Said yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, just to start it off from there. Which brings me to my next question, right before we get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. What is it about nowadays, you and the tertiary institutions, and politics? It's TAIN or TESCON. And some would say, until now we're Nook's president, not politics, no Kosovo. What is it? What is that penchant for politics? Is it now starting or has it always been there?
Oh, I think that the conversation, I have likened the student unions or tertiary institutions to an academy, a football academy, where main teams go to pick or go to scout their top talent. It's the same thing. It's not just with politics, but industry too. So you have political parties overlooking student unions, tertiary institutions, looking at the potentials they can scout and then grab them.
Do you think that's right? Do you think that's not too early to start roping in people and maybe indoctrinating them?
I think that it is a matter of preference and choices. For young people coming up, there are people who want to go into writing, there are people who want to go into art. So if you have people who want to go into art, definitely the likes of Uncle Atto and then our very famed writers could be poaching them from there. And that is not wrong, right? We could have bankers also go to our institutions to do scouting, right? That's not wrong, right? We have football teams going into our schools.
This is politics. That's work. This is politics.
I'm building a point.
Right.
We could go into our colleges to pick sportsmen and women. It's purely a matter of interest. There are young people who have interest in volunteering. There are young people who have interest in community mobilization. Elsewhere it happens, there are people who volunteer for community mobilization.
Okay, hold it right there. I just want to go for the jugular. Were you a member of the NPP while in school, while serving as vice president?
Yeah, I've always been an NPP member from back in my first degree in the University of Cape Coast.
Okay. Known?
Yes.
Publicly known?
Yes.
All right.
The difference here has always been that when we have the opportunity of serving our constituents, which is not a partisan constituency, we hold it in high esteem to find a way to delineate or decouple our job. And you've hosted me here where I've hit at the government when I was Nook's president just a few months ago. So many times I came at the government with positions I believed was not right and was not in favor of my constituents. And that is what we hold as our responsibility as people who serve our nation, that we discharge our duty wherever we find ourselves without fear or favor.
All right, thank you. Let's get into the papers now. I have the Daily Graphic, Ghanaian Times, and the Daily Statesman. What do you have?
I have the Daily Guide and the New Finder.
All right.
Yep.
So let me start. We're going to do this very quickly. In about 15 minutes, we should be wrapping. 2024 elections, guarantor system back, indelible ink remains. And NDC confirms Professor Opoku Agyemang as running mate. DBG partners to invest 1 billion Ghana cedis in women-led businesses. John Kumar passes on. Africa needs more museums, Kojoyanka says so. And 13th African Games set to kick off in spectacular opening ceremony today. At that stadium, which I'll be talking to you about, the cost of some things in this country and sports, but you look forward to my blunt thoughts. We go show them some small, I don't know if you say, small, something small. But let's get into that. So the Electoral Commission will now use the guarantor system as part of the voter registration process after abandoning the attempt to introduce a new constitutional instrument for the December 7, 2024 elections. This means that the Ghana card will not be the only document for establishing the eligibility of prospective voters who qualify to be captured in the poll book. Furthermore, indelible ink will remain in the mix of systems for identifying persons who have voted during the election. So, two crucial matters here. When we spoke to Dr. Bosman Asari, when we were launching our election HQ, he made mention of the fact that indelible ink, for the sake of, even if for cosmetic effect, will still be maintained, and December 7 will be maintained. Now, there's more good news because the eligibility of prospective voters will not only be determined if you have the Ghana card. So those are some major developments. Let me go to page 16 and 17, and then you come in with your reflections. So, the founder of the Pan-African Heritage Museum, Mr. Kojoyanka, has underscored the need for Africans to put up more museums to remember their past and preserve their cultural heritage. Now, he lamented that out of about 55,000 museums spread across the world, the whole of Africa could only boast of about 900. Whole of Africa. While the United States of America alone had about 35,000, with about 15,000 in Europe. He says, it becomes evident from the figures I have shared with you that Africa needs more museums. The reason is very simple. If we want to keep our story, if we want to preserve and save our history, we must find a place to keep them, and that's in the museum, he said. And I have lamented, for example, at least we've done well with the Kwame Nkrumah Museum. They don't call it mausoleum anywhere. Is it Memorial Park? Yeah. Right? I love what we've done with it. There's this place up north that he used to spend his time when he was resting. That place could have been, you see, all of these, when you get them right, you go abroad, it's a museum. It's generating millions of whatever, dollars and other things. And we are here sitting on gold mines. There are so many of such. Then finally, NDC confirms Professor Opoku Agyemang as running mate. In settling on Professor Naana Opoku Agyemang as running mate for the December 7 presidential election, former President John Dramani Mahama put faith in her integrity, modesty, intellectual capacity, and team role. Not NDC top guns have indicated. More than a mere compromise choice from the rumored list of respected candidates, the astute academician and Ghana's first female vice-chancellor is regarded as a unifying force, an attractive personality within the academic environment locally and globally, and a response to affirmative appeal at the highest level of local politics. Now, I want to pin you down on this. It's going to be really tough on the end of the MPP, dealing with Professor Naana Opoku Agyemang. One, the last time, practically little mud could be slung at her. Two, she has the experience. Three, she's a woman. There's that appeal to that constituency. Four, she's a returnee. I don't know, but is a game, set, and match?
Well, I think that the first question you should be asking yourself is, what did she bring to the ticket on both occasions?
Do you know? I've spoken to analysts who say she brought a lot.
What do those analysts
what's his name?
point out to?
Professor Kyei-Mensah, for example. A political
what specifically do they point out to?
If you look at the figures, they may say that Central Region is a swing region and all of that.
And what was her impact in Central Region?
In fact, they feel that they had inroads, that there were women constituents who came on board because of her, and that same will appear this
that
time.
the data,
and maybe the most crucial aspect, anyone else, probably the MPP could have had a field day. Oh, wait, oh, this, oh, that. Let's face it. Dr. Bawumia, he doesn't have a running mate yet. But there's a lot to sling at Dr. Bawumia, even if you just wanted to focus on the economy, nothing else, just the economy. What would you throw at Naana Opoku Agyemang?
I think that the concept of our politics has always been attack, attack, attack. It takes us off some of the critical data analysis we should do.
Okay.
So if you want to put things into perspective very well, you don't only look at the kind of attacks that can be thrown at the person.
Oh, it's only one angle. It's not to say that's the...
Yes, I'm building a point there. Sometimes you've got to analyze data-wise what the impact of the candidate has to. Some candidates are quote-unquote zero.
Okay.
So no negative, no positive, it's a zero.
Okay, so they add nothing.
They add.
Is that how you
nothing.
feel about
from the data, Prof. Nana.
Which data are you referencing?
The data of the election, both election 2016 and 2020. And if you ask any analyst, ask them specifically, what does she bring to the table, or what did she bring to the table? You realize you don't have specifics. Like Prof. Kobe, you mentioned Prof. Kobe. You mentioned the swing region of Central Region, which is a home region. But you cannot make references to data to say that Prof. Nana brought this or the swing region behaved this way because of Prof. Nana. In 2016, what was the impact in her home region? In 2020, what was the impact? In fact, I did my first degree in the University of Cape Coast, where she happened to be Vice Chancellor. And the data or the grounds shows claim that she's not a typical favorite Central Region person. The NDC has a track record when it comes to running mate from Central Region. Pick from 92, Akowaka in Kenson was from Central Region. Pick up to Prof. John Atamos in 96, who was also from Central Region. Up until JDM, who was not from Central Region. Mr. Atta was from Central Region. Prof. Nana is also from Central Region. So the NDC does nothing new when they go to Central Region. And that makes it more compelling or more imperative to see something drastic brought to the ticket by Prof. Nana. And that is missing so far in the situation. Compare Prof. Nana's inclusion to that of Prof. Atamos's inclusion. Then you realize that Prof. Nana brings absolutely zero to the table. And without any apologies or without mentioning words, you can estimate her involvement, her impact on the campaign trail. For an NDC person, it is more of a continuity, and that person should be smiling because it releases you of coming to defend why she was changed, why she's no longer on the ticket, why then it fits into what the MPP said in 2016 and 2020 that she brings nothing. That is why she's been changed. So for the safety net of it, the NDC would want to go with her. But analytically and data-wise, what does Prof. Nana bring to the table? And in my estimation, is that she brings very little to the ticket. Right. And talk of attack. I think that it's the same with the NDC's candidate, John Kumar. A lot of attacks could go on him, but that is because you are at the forefront of it. That is because you are the candidate. And at this point, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is a candidate. So you would expect that the NDC sling would go mostly aimed at him. But the point is that who worries themselves to attack Prof. Nana when she brings absolutely nothing to the table? And that is why maybe the MPP or people do not attack her much. Right. If she had brought a lot to the table, maybe a lot would have been directed at her.
Yo, but she wasn't on the ticket. You mentioned 2016, 2020. She was only on the ticket in 2020.
Sorry, 2020, yeah.
And she's going to be on the ticket for the second time as running mate. I think we've spoken about the ECs, but do you want a very quick reflection on Africa needs more?
Yes,
for 30 seconds.
It could actually be a focal point in every conversation, because if you look at the impact...
The way you are excited about it...
I'm excited.
No, hold on. you know nowadays... the Bawumia campaign picks.
Oh, no.
Your manifesto, you're going to build more this year.
Do you know what? If you go to my YouTube last video right now, I was actually reviewing the impact of tourism on France.
Right.
So it makes it more a conversation I'd like to involve, because you know that the Eiffel Tower alone receives up to 6 million plus every year. The Disneyland receives up to 15 million.
Let's not talk about them. Notre Dame
And
in France,
Notre Dame,
which got gutted by fire.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many.
And you'd pay as much as 50 euros to enter the Disneyland. Enter keke, not pick anything. Yeah. The Eiffel Tower takes about 20 euros. So you realize the impact of some of these sites. And it's huge.
How they contribute even to the economy.
It's huge. France is built on nothing but tourism.
Well, not necessarily nothing. Agriculture.
8%.
They have a burgeoning. Even when it comes to wine alone. I mean, I could take you on that.
For the want of a better word, 8% of the French GDP is from tourism, and for 8% of any GDP,
there's 92% somewhere.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's extremely huge. So you would want to encourage more of these things, and I agree with a good professor that Africa needs more of these ones.
On the international front, we will not get into the stories. Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso form joint force to fight jihadists. Liberia Parliament approves creation of War Crimes Tribunal, and recently they've also started something where they are going to try or set up systems to deal with people who have been known to be corrupt, who have taken, I wish we could do that in Ghana, regardless of whose ox is gone, NDC, MPP. And I've always said that when I get to this point, I remember Peter Alajete, furniture. Macky Sall announces March 24 election. Biden, Trump woo Haley voters. Of course, Nikki Haley now, after the Vermont and Washington, D.C. win. Not enough. She's moving aside on Super Tuesday. But who's going to get more of her votes? Trump or Joe Biden? It's leaning more towards Joe Biden if you follow the logic.
Because she's still decided not to endorse Trump.
Yeah. 2023, deadliest year for migrants in a decade. EU's von der Leyen wins to lead bloc for 5 more years. And China's exports rise unexpectedly. Let's get into the stories in both the Daily Guide and the Finder newspaper before I wrap with the Ghanaian.
So the Daily Guide looks at the front page, John Kumar dead, MPP mourns. Nigeria APC chairman visits.
I think some of these headlines are even. MPP. No. Ghana mourns. What's this? We must always politicize this. And MPP from Ghana.
NDC confirms Naana Opoku and 2 others face judgment on May 3rd. Number 1 induced public with celebrities. These are the front page of the Daily Guide. And the Finder. Maybe later.
So we can go into the Daily Guide.
Go into the Daily Guide.
Come back to the Finder.
I mean, John Kumar dead is strongly stated. Number 1 induced public with celebrity. The investigator on the number 1 trial makes the assertion that the men's gold issue was more could be blamed on the inducement from celebrities. Let's return to our values, Ghana's rich culture. Gaza ceasefire talks end in Cairo with no substantial answer. I think that the ceasefire issue on Gaza too is lingering on the international scene with no end in sight. With still some bombing raid at the West Bank and then the south of the Rafah side of Gaza, which is very, very deadly at this point. Akufo-Addo and 2 others face judgment on May 3rd. I think that we are
the ambulance.
Yeah, we are still aware that Akufo-Addo and the 2 others of the NDC are still in court facing some count of
the trial is still
willfully causing financial loss to the state to the tune of 2.37 million euros on the ambulance issue. NDC confirms Naana as she accepts. Yesterday, she issued a statement to accept her nomination by John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency.
And there's also EC releases 2024 elections timetable.
2024.
Albeit late, a lot of parties, even the MPP has.
Yes. I think that the issue has to do with the consensus at IPAC, considering that there were motions or there were proposals for changing date. But then I think that finally it is better late than ever.
All right. So I think we're done with the Daily Guide, but I just wanted to avert your attention to something you read. The President's Independence Day, let's return to our values and all of that. Some would say LGBTQ law. What do you think about it?
I think that
things are.
I think that I have said that there is so much consensus on the LGBTQ plus bill in Ghana.
Is there?
There is so much consensus.
The President on the 4th, even before there was a suit in court on the 5th, prognosticated, looked in his crystal ball and saw that someone would, and even said, almost as though it had already happened, to the international community. So Mr. President literally lied to the international community.
First of all, let me make some corrections. He did not lie.
He didn't?
On the 7th of July, 2023, Dr. Amanda Odoi mounted a suit at the Supreme Court against the...
We're not talking about that. That has nothing to do with this current...
No, but that's what he's saying. He's saying that hold on, bro. He's saying that he's aware that an issue was being mounted at the Supreme Court against the bill. He did not say that Richard Delasky has mounted an issue. So if you check the records, was there an issue or had there been a defense mounted against the bill? Yes, there was by Dr. Amanda Odoi. That is a fact.
So Mr. President was referring to June
you and
last year.
You and I were not in his books. So we give him the benefit of the doubt.
I see.
Because indeed he was not wrong. He did not lie to the international community. He didn't. Okay. So, but for me, I think that the focus is on our consensus. The president has made his position very clear on this bill. Parliament has had a unanimous voice on it on 2 occasions. On July 5th, when the second reading was done, it was unanimous that it moved to 3rd reading. And then on the 28th of February, when it was passed to, it was unanimous. And generally, if you look at our social construct, our religious construct, our cultural construct, the perspectives, everything shows that Ghana is 90% on the same page. The only difference is that the president, like any other citizen, may have points to point out in the bill. The bill originally was not like this. So if you look at even...
Okay, so hold on. Since you are defending it from this angle, let me read to you verbatim what Mr. President said. And I'll just skip to the relevant part. He says, I think it will serve little purpose to go at this stage into the details of the origin of this proposed law, which is yet to reach my desk. But suffice it to say that I have learned that today, Mr. President said, today, a challenge has been mounted at the Supreme Court by a concerned citizen to the constitutionality of the proposed legislation. There is no other person who has done that. It is Richard Delesky, and I'll have time for that issue and Richard Delesky and Sam George in my blunt thoughts. But he said categorically that today a challenge has been mounted at the Supreme Court.
Did he mention Delesky?
No, he didn't. But who? I mean, you don't need to be a scientist, a nuclear scientist.
But the point is that
you made a point.
You refer to Delesky.
You don't have to mention the name.
So
Afenyo-Markin, did he say certain
So at the end of the day, is there a suit in court
Let's do this step by
challenge?
step. Let's do this step by step. Did Afenyo-Markin in Parliament say certain things and mention a name or not?
No, he did. Yeah, he did.
He did.
No problem.
And he mentioned a specific name. Then you come here, and Mr. President, you were trying to say that he's alluding to something in the past.
No, I did not say he was.
Mr. President says, I have learned that today a challenge has been mounted, speaking on the 4th. So what are you referring
So first of all, the question you ask yourself is that, was there a challenge mounted against the matter? Yes, there was. Was Delesky's name mentioned? No, Delesky's name wasn't mentioned. You may want to dwell on the today used. I perfectly agree with you. But does that take away the fact that the central focus of the president is that there is a defense or there is a suit mounted against the bill in court or in the Supreme Court? Does that take it away? No, it does not.
This shows that the president lied. Do you agree?
How does it show that the president lied?
Okay, it's fine. You can adopt your stance, whatever it is. Let's wrap with the headlines in the Finder.
But then, just as I mentioned, I think that we have a consensus around the table. I'm not for LGBTQ. I hope that the bill will be passed. The president.
Are you for protecting all citizens so that no one will be rubbed off the wrong way? You are for it, but
no, I think that the bill itself protects the rights of even offenders,
right.
And that is one of the things I like about the bill, that it protects the rights of offenders. So you would in no way want to, but you see the president.
So you're looking at both sides,
yes,
which is a good thing.
Yes, which is a good thing. The president has a track record when it comes to not assenting bills when he has reservations.
I like how you use those 3 instances in recent times. So
you see, the point is that
I see a certain pattern, but
the Armed Forces Bill was not assented to the first time. The Witchcraft Bill was not assented to. He raised his concerns,
and those are the 3 bills I'm referencing.
Good.
Let's just quickly do the headlines of the Finder in some 10 seconds.
Yes, so I think that it starts from Will's cries echo as tribute pour in for Dr. John Kumar. Banks post 8.3 billion cedis profit in 2023, reported by the Bank of Ghana. Politicization of our power outages slowing industrialization, AGI decries. It's Prof Jane as running mate of the NDC.
I guess same stories. The Ghanaian Times, just one story to add. Guta appeals to government to remove COVID-19 and special import levies to prevent business collapses. And that's how we cap off the news review. But this segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma Boehian behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Nzema. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. You want to stay because after sports, I'll be serving you my blunt thoughts. Water, like the Nigerians will say. Thank you very much. Former Nukes President Dennis Larbi-Ampofo has been my guest. He's also a member of the MPP's Election 2024 Manifesto Committee. Thank you for joining.
Good time on us.
Sports is up next. Stay.